Prova. 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 I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. Okay. Seems like a lot of people are online. 3 for now. Okay. We're just waiting like maybe another 5-10 minutes. A lot of people are online. 3 for now. Okay. We're just waiting like maybe another 5-10 minutes. A lot of people are online. Okay, let me just make sure that I have the, what's it called? The code sandbox open. Let's see, what was it? Is .gd/zepcode. Yep, that's it. Okay. I'm not sure if I should I just use the lab dashboard so I can see? All right, guys, let's wait for like a couple of minutes before we dive in it. Should maybe have the OBS here so you guys don't have like an Inception feeling. Yeah, here it goes. Okay, that looks good. What's in Firefox? Oh, my code sandbox was already open in Firefox. Oops. I just sign up with the GitHub in there too. Cool. Oh, for some reason there's two of me. Okay. All right. Let's wait for some more people. Yeah, guys, I'm gonna try to like do this a little bit more. Just because during quarantine, besides the fact that I work from like 9 to 5, sometimes like I connect at like 3 a.m. in the morning. I would also love to see if anybody else could get like a job in tech, since it's like such a hard time through the yeah. So let's wait for some more people. Send the link to like 30 people, and I really had to push it to like what was it, like 5 p.m. because initially I had the idea to do it at 11 a.m. but that didn't work because people were like a little lazy and were like, no, I'm still sleeping, blah blah. That's how it works. Yeah, so if you guys are here, please just write in chat a little quick. I'm here, so I know who I'm talking to. If you guys want to do any question, you can ask questions as well. Oh man, Michael is here too. Awesome. So I mainly did this because, as I was saying, like, I want more people to get interested in tech. I don't want people to just think that like, we are like geeks and we don't have a heart and all we think is like code and whole kind of like cliche. Yeah. Oh, there's 5 minutes left. That's why there's not so many people. Okay, perfect. It's 4:55. I thought it was 5 already. So I'm also gonna go on live on Instagram. I would like to do it on Facebook as well. So give me a second. I will be right back. We'll be right back. Let me see if I can also get Facebook to work. Okay. So I'm not sure if Facebook has a if Facebook has a desktop sharing type of thing, but we're about to find out. Okay, that's kind of done. I'm trying to see what is the live thing for this. Okay, here goes. Okay, we have so far. Okay, we still have 5 people. Getting there. Okay. All right. Okay. We are back. Let's see, guys, again, for the new ones that just tune in. Somebody's having trouble joining. Interesting. If you're having trouble to join, just hit me up on Instagram or Facebook, Zap Value. Let's give it like another 5 minutes. Still 5 o'clock. Almost 5 o'clock. What do you think should we do? Should we do France? Sì. Hi guys, I'm speaking in English. There's some people from Italy, they also join. I mean, Italian people also join. So I'm trying to like kind of compensate for both. I'm not sure. Should we do like a Facebook Live or should we do an Instagram Live? I can only choose one because I only have one phone. I kind of like did not think this through. So yeah. Alright guys, I'm not doing a Facebook Live because since I'm using it for streaming on computer, I can't use the camera. So I'm doing sto facendo un corso per React, Rino. Yeah, so you're gonna kind of like see me like jump back and forth in Italian and English at some point, just because I want to make sure that like everybody understands and people are with us. Let's wait a little bit more. And as soon as you guys are are connected to the live, then we can go ahead and start. I put the little link on the top left. You can just type that in your address bar. So you're gonna see. So the way that it works is you're gonna see. I'm responding to some people on Instagram. So you're gonna see the whatchamacallit. Oh, you're gonna see the code on my screen. So you can kind of like follow along. Yeah. Let's see. Another couple of minutes. See who's there. So people are coming in. Somebody had a problem on joining in just because I guess like as URL shortening services, is.gd is not really used that much. If you guys have like any other websites that you guys can suggest in terms of like URL shortening, maybe I should have used Tanier. Yeah, maybe. So let's see who else joins. Wait, maybe like until 5:10, roughly. So yeah, if you guys just tuned in, there is a link in the chat that thank you, Vittorio. There's a link in the chat where I'm gonna be streaming a little workshop about coding a web application. If you guys join the live, that's is.gd/ZEP live. You guys can kind of like go through some code and we can kind of like discuss web application. So it looks like 2 people are online only. So I'm trying to see how this will work. How is this working out? Yeah, there is a little bit of intermittence there in terms of connectivity for some people. Let's wait a little bit, guys. I know you have 4 people, so if you just tuned in, please just leave a comment to the chat. Just write a comment in the chat, so I know who you are, and so you can kind of also get acquainted to the system that we're using, which is YouTube Live. I never did this before, so I'm not sure how it's gonna go. Please let me know if you can hear me or if anything kind of like falls apart. Sorry, other person that was trying. Milo, ma non va?
Mo adesso vado, provo da computer, vado giù
Ah, perché stavi da cellulare?
sta prova
Milo.
che cazzo ne so?
Vabbè, yeah.
Dai, provo da computer.
Ciao.
Dai.
All right, guys. Please join from your desktop or laptop. I think tablet could work, but it's highly suggested to use a computer for this. I'm not sure how well you can kind of see code on, like a small screen. All right, 2 more minutes. 2 more minutes, and we're starting in 2 more minutes. Right, Michael, you're gonna code along on your iPhone 3. That totally works. There is stream info here. Enter interesting. Oh, we did all of that already, right? Optional features. Yeah, we did all of that already. Backbone in PHP. What? Not doing that. Did I write that? Chris, join in. So if you, if I'm missing something, maybe you can just throw it in. See if we can all kind of build. I better collect my C64. All right, let me check with somebody else. Connection seems to be a little up and down. All right, Chris is with us. Awesome. Chris is with us. Milo is connecting through his desktop. Let me go and check on Facebook if anybody's having any other issue. Again, guys, this is going to be pretty basic. I'm expecting the people that are joining to kind of like know a little of JavaScript, close to none whatsoever. Just because I kind of want to like, break the myth that, making web applications, it's like pretty hard. It is a little tough, but I feel like with the right directions and with the right community, you can achieve a lot in like a short time. So let's go check on Facebook if anybody else is having a problem. We have 4 people so far. Looks good. Yeah, it's like TypeScript, Mike. Yes. So Mike asked if I need to know some JavaScript. We always had this kind of argument that strong typed languages is better than loose typed languages. I have a background in Java, so I kind of like to see the error before like my program crash, but some people like it in other ways, I guess. All right, guys. Is anybody having any problem on Facebook to connect on Zep Live? Non mi apre niente. Okay, let me go ahead and Milo, allora, tu vai su Google, no?
So su Google.
Sulla barra dell'address là e scrivi is.gd/zeplive.
Tac. Ma appare questo?
Vede? No, e tu scrivi su Google nel senso la ricerca, devi scriverlo sulla barra dell'indirizzo dove scrivi i siti.
Ho scritto pure là, guarda.
Fai la prova? GD, no GT. What?
Te l'ho detto. Guarda, questo ho scritto.
Is.gd ZValue. Perché forse... Ma tu stai su Safari?
Sì.
Ok.
Vado su Chrome.
Dammi... vai su Chrome. Perché secondo me Safari ti ricerca direttamente la...
Qua uguale però, guarda, sono su Chrome.
Fammi vedere.
Faccio incolla. Sono una cosa di...
no, ZValue, ZepLive. Dicevo strano.
Ma hai scritto ZepLive,
Ho scritto ZepLive, no?
No, tu mi hai scritto ZepLive.
No, ma che dici?
No, nel primo mi hai scritto ZepLive, nel secondo mi hai scritto ZepLive. Quello.
È andata?
Aspetta.
I'm helping somebody else on... È andata?
Ok, ce l'ho.
Vai. Okay, guys, so... All right, are we all together? Are we all here? If you just got in, please just leave a message in the chat saying, hey, I'm here, so I know who is there. I'm streaming from YouTube to build together a quick React application. Also, you guys can decide what we build. I want to go more inside, like, behind the scenes of React and how it works, and all kind of like tip and tricks that you can move around with. Hey, Mohammed, what's up? Khalid. Okay, good. Some people are joining. So, there are some people that are joining from Facebook too. Good. We're at 6 people so far. Okay. All right. So, cool. We have 6 people so far. I feel like we should start. I don't want to keep postponing it. People should be able to join anytime, anyway. I'm on Instagram as well. If you guys need any help, I'm going to be live on Instagram as well. Okay, so it's so weird because there is like nobody to talk to, but at the same time, there is. Makes any sense. Okay, so as you guys can see, I went ahead and I put together a quick environment. I'm just gonna put the chat on the side so you guys I can see what I see and I can see you guys as well. Oh, YouTube. Okay. Okay, let's do this actually. Let's move this. Let's move it. Move this here. And let's move this here. Okay. Good. Cool. And cool. All right. So, cool. So we're doing this workshop. Okay, Josh is joining as well. A couple of people are joining. Cool. Okay. So again, guys, I'm doing this workshop because if you didn't tune in earlier, I'm doing this workshop because I would love to see more people in tech. Since, you know, the hard times, it's really hard to kind of like go back to regular life. So I feel like, you know, if you can put together like a web application and get a job in a startup, that will make your life much easier. So how this kind of like workshop is going to be structured. I don't really have anything, like no paper whatsoever. This is like all live. I didn't prepare anything, so bear with me. But the way that I created this sandbox, this environment that we have is pretty much like an IDE. IDE, it stands for an internal development environment, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see, IDE is a integrated development environment. Integrated development environment, which means that it's pretty much like an area where you can write code and you can have a whole bunch of stuff happening like behind the scenes that pretty much put this code together, sends it to the browser, which is Google Chrome, Safari, however it is, and finally displays it on Google Chrome. So the way that web applications are pretty much like made is pretty simple. The Google Chrome has typically like 3 languages that it kind of like refers to. It has HTML, it has a JavaScript itself, and a CSS. So what CSS is for styling. So if you go on, I don't know, tell me like a beautiful website to go through. I don't know, Netflix, I guess. So if you go to Netflix, for example, you're going to see that there is a whole bunch of images. There is like some widgets in there and different sections. Well, what the browser is doing is getting this code, not only this code, but part of it is getting this page source, right? This is bundled, meaning that you know, if people want to kind of go ahead and replicate the Netflix page, it's going to be really hard because it kind of like makes no sense. It's like all the names in your code are like shorted to like one letter. All the stuff that you have in your assets, which means assets stands for like images and video or any type of media, are also like compressed together. And this is kind of like a security measurement to avoid people from, like stealing your code. So yeah, as you see here, I have like a bunch of like stuff on this. I do have CSS, so guys, if you didn't know how to do that, to go to the development console, you can do Control-Shift-I, right? And you see this like little development console. We're gonna use this a lot. So we're gonna also get familiar a little bit with this. So elements, as you can see, this is HTML. This is right here, and it shows you like a whole bunch of like components there that are on pretty much the page, right? This is HTML. The CSS is this right here. So if I want to change anything in this page, like let's say there is a color here in the body, maybe I think it refers to this. Let's see, what is it referring to? So if I go there and I change this to, guess what? Orange. My old website changes in orange. And this is something that you're not doing, permanently on the website. It's more like a temporary thing, just for development. That's why they're called developer tools. So you can actually see how your website is acting within, the change of your code. So you saw this is the CSS, HTML here, and then there is the console, which does our JavaScript. Ooh, it looks like that. Netflix has some weird stuff going on there. This might be also because it's really hard to kind of adapt to different browsers. And also want to break the myth that web development, it's way easier than any other kind of development. I feel like rendering, which means whatever you see on the page, and dynamicity in terms of web applications, it's a little bit harder than just working with code and terminals. But again, each side kind of has the hard stuff they have to deal with. Okay, cool. So we went ahead and we said that there's going to be some HTML, some CSS, and some JavaScript. Well, what do these kind of languages come together to? Well, they come together to, how I said before, an HTML page. So you might know HTML. You can actually learn it pretty quickly. I never learned HTML. It was kind of something that I wanted to kind of explore by doing, more than just going through a course or buying a book about HTML and kind of learning it. A lot of people say that since HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language, it's kind of the basic structure, it's the skeleton of your page. So as you see here, there is a little title, React. There is a body. The body is pretty much what you're gonna see in your page itself. And then there is a whole bunch of components. So these things that are they are opened with an angular parenthesis, I think it's called a caret, are actually called tags. So there's a bunch of tags here and there that define the skeleton of your page. We said that this is CSS. CSS here is literally almost nothing. There is only a text alignment. So if I put this to left, then I can see that my text changes. The reason why this happens is because it's referring to that style sheet, which pretty much will make sure to give the aesthetics to the page. So if here I go ahead and I don't know, add a background color, and of course orange, because you guys know it, then there is a background color in there. Let me know if I'm going too fast, if I'm going too slow. So you say, okay, cool. You can add all this stuff to HTML. You can add these tags here and there. So why do we use React? What's the point of using React when I'm already learning a programming language? I say programming language because HTML itself doesn't really have all the paradigms that programming that modern programming kind of like has. So why do we use React? Well, if, for example, like we were about to make, you know, a whole bunch of stuff in here, we would have to replicate the code over and over again, right? So if, for example, like instead of being this div root in here, you would write like something else. I'm not sure if this works. We're gonna check together, because this might break it, because now it's all compiled in React. React P, like that. Does that work? Would it just look at it? Let's see. Yeah, so for a second you see that there is like a React, but of course then it crashes because this project is made in React, so it doesn't just like it in like HTML. So you know, if I, for example, like I have this little let's call it component. Let's get used to, like, you know, the vocabulary of React. If I have a whole bunch of them, then as you can see, like they will come up on the screen, and you can kind of like change this code like manually. You can change it manually, but then at the same time, it's kind of like, you know, really taxing in terms of like an activity, because there's a lot of stuff that you have to make sure that are like you're kind of like you know, paying attention to, and then and then overall, like your HTML file is going to be massive. I understand the argument that are like, you know, you can have different HTML files and then kind of like put it together, but for now, and at least like in modern web application development, we use React because we want to make sure that all our stuff are pretty much like dynamic. So we want to have like behavior within our page, right? We want to say like, hey, if I'm going to, let's say, like build this little like search box here, I want to make sure that this search box maybe sends me an email. Maybe this search box will always like say that are like, hey, hello Giuseppe, like how are you today, blah blah, by just me browsing to that page. So it's more advanced in terms of like, you know, like the browser API. Also, when I talk about API in the future, I'm referring to pretty much like an interface. What's an interface? Let's say, for example, that you want to learn like a new language, right? So I want to learn Italian, for example. An API for an Italian would be kind of like the common phrases in Italian. So the API will kind of like let you communicate with another person that also speaks Italian. So if I use this API, if I use these common phrases, even though I don't know whole the language, I know the common phrases, so I can kind of have like a quick dialogue or a conversation with that person. So what an API does is pretty much like offering some common phrases to use in order to establish a communication. And the browser API means you are trying to talk to the browser, but you don't really know everything that the browser like can kind of like say. You know, specific actions that you are interested in that pretty much let you communicate with your browser. So what was I going with that in terms of like a DPI? Yeah, so I was saying that since you need to talk to the browser a lot, because your browser is kind of like, you know, taking care of your page and like the style of your page and all that stuff, then you want to be able to like establish a communication with your browser. So we're going to use these APIs. And JavaScript itself, it's the language that the browser talks, right? That the browser speaks. So if I know JS common phrases, then I can talk to the browser in a way that I can establish communication with my browser. So I can do all sort of things. I can use the audio API, meaning I can talk to my computer and my computer will be able to do specific things. Or I could, let's say, like say in code, refresh this page. So my browser will understand and will say, okay, I know what you're talking about. I know that common phrase. I'm going to get back to you and I'm going to refresh the page as you requested. What other API could it be there? There is like a bunch. Like you can do a lot of stuff with the Chrome. Oh, one of like the famous ones are the ones where like you're shrinking the window. So like if I am shrinking this window, how does my code, how does my page react, right? That's like a little pun there. So how does my page react in the sense that how does it scale? Does it do something different? Does it display something different? And that's like another like pretty much like part of HTML and the browser itself called the viewport that understands that if you're shrinking your page, then something needs to be readapted, right? So that's to say that there is millions and millions means of operations that you can do with your browser, and the only way to do that is through JavaScript, which is the language that we're gonna use. Now, so to slowly get in React, what we're gonna do is we use a template here, right? So if you go in the Create Sandbox, there is a whole bunch of templates here. I chose the React, and the reason why I chose to do this is because the environment setup, it's a little bit of a pain, especially like based on what operating systems are you using. So I kind of like decided to go with the Sandbox with this like kind of like template ready just to practice on, so we don't waste time in terms of like setting up environments. Maybe somebody would kind of like left behind because like their environment is not working, so now we're all in the same page. Okay, so a React application, as you can see, has dependencies. Dependencies means that pretty much like it depends on these other packages. These packages are another like bunch of code, like code that Facebook wrote. So if you actually go ahead and type React GitHub is just where we're going to keep our code. As you can see, React was created by Facebook to build user interfaces, as we said. So Facebook gives us this like whole bunch of like chunk of codes that we can use in our code to pretty much like create web applications. Now, since we need to build a web application, we also need to have our own dependencies, right? So if, for example, like we want to have, like a fast image viewing, such as, let's say I have like a slider, right? I think there's a slider here. Is a slider here? No. Like, for example, like let's say I have like a slider of images, like a carousel or something. No. Carousel image, JS, whatever, something like that. Yeah, like something like this, right? For example, like an image like this. You can see that there is a bunch of HTML in here, right? Which pretty much like makes this component, act the way that it acts. But also there is some JavaScript behind the scenes that pretty much let us say, okay, when you click on this button, do certain things. Now, when we have React, let's say we can pack this in our own little application, and we can say, okay, I have this slider, it's ready to use. All you need to do is literally just integrate it in your application. And the way that we're gonna go about is to add more dependencies here, right? So if you see here, for example, there is a whole bunch of dependencies, like in another workshop, if this works pretty well and you guys like can give me some feedback about it, we can also like kind of like go through the terminal and kind of like check all the nitty-gritty of like using npm, which is like this program that we're gonna use to install like other packages. So we're gonna have like a whole bunch of packages that we can add there to help us to like develop it a little bit faster, right? Because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. If you know that an image carousel is working well, if you don't really have the challenge of yourself to like rebuild something that has been working so well for so long, why would you do that? So for example, myself at work, I'm using something called React Dates, and I know how, like, you could see it through like your point of view, be like, oh, it's just like pretty much like a date picker. It's nothing. Well, this actually it's one of the most like complicated components to build like from scratch. And the reasons why is because it has to do with a lot of use cases. When I talk about use cases, it's kind of like talking about everything that your application could actually do or could actually do wrong. So you always want to kind of like prevent that. So for example, myself, I'm using this package called React Dates. So actually, like if I want to use it, I could look from here, go React Dates, you see, it's right here. So I could easily install this and it will be available in my web application to use. So that's pretty much on the packages. Is it clear? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow? Just give me some live feedback here, just so I'm sure that, like, you know, I don't go too fast. I still can't wrap my head around this YouTube live studio thingy. You guys good? Oh, live chat. Is it? Yeah? Cool. Okay. So, good so far. Awesome. Thank you, Chris. So, as we said, there is a whole bunch of dependencies, right? And Code Sandbox makes it much easier because, you know, they're just like listed here. You do add the dependencies and he adds it. So, let's actually add it. Why not? So just so I can show you like what happens to this file. So if I'm adding it, I don't know if you guys noticed, but here on line 12, I have a new package, which is React Dates, which means that now if I want to use their API, so their common phrases to talk to my web application, I can use this package, this React Dates, to do a bunch of stuff. Cool. How does the package JSON gets created? Well, the package JSON itself, it's a Node.js application, kind of like a source file. And by saying Node.js, I'm just like talking about pretty much like the genetics of a JS program. Let's say that. In your computer, there's something called Node that pretty much talks to your internet card, right? Your network card, and says, hey, I need you to go to the internet, get me some stuff, and come back here. But I want everything organized. So instead of just doing directly JavaScript and writing it, you know, in a way that like you can actually could do something wrong, you can use something called Node, and Node will pretty much like take care of anything that could go wrong for you. Between quotation. Between developers, we guys understand the struggle. So yeah, when you create a Node application, pretty much you have this package JSON. Now the package JSON will carry the name of your application. So at the end, when we will, like, let's say like publish our application, let's say like we build a component that we're really proud of, right? We build this like orange little like box, and we want everybody to use this orange box, maybe making it even dynamic so they can kind of like just change a couple of things and have this beautiful orange box. What I could do is like literally like I could publish this on something called the npm. Oh, I misspelled npm. Right? Well, there's a whole bunch of packages which we were talking about, right? So if I talk about React Dates, it's right there, right? This is what programmers use to kind of like share packages so everybody can use it, can install in their application, and so forth. So I could say like, hey, my application is called beautiful, I don't know, orange box. So if, for example, like somebody from the chat, let's say Michael or Khalid wants to use it, then you can just import my package. Like, you know, we were doing here a dependency, in this case, say orange sandbox, if it was there, and I would just like use it in my application. Cool. The version itself is pretty much like what is going to differ between different packages. So like, let's say today I have this beautiful orange box. Tomorrow I'm going to have an orange box with something else in it. Like, let's say I'm going to have, I don't know, an image underneath. And I'm so proud of this package. And I'm going to say like, hey, I want this package to be used by every single person that I know. So I'm going to update the version, so they know that in version 1.0.1 there is also an image under my little orange box. Description, that's pretty much like what you're gonna see when you go in npm, this kind of like thing, you know. What else is there? Keywords, that's just like a way for you to like find the package a little bit faster. So if you know it's a React application, that's what happens. Main, this is interesting, I'm gonna skip it for now. Dependencies, we already saw this. Dev dependencies, that's just to say, okay, sometimes I need to use these specific packages to build my application, but in case I don't want the final user to use this specific packages, I'm going to put it in dev dependencies. So these are only going to be available at the time of development, when you actually like, you know, writing code, you are at home and you didn't publish any package yet. Is it clear so far what we're doing here? Super cool that Facebook made React and Airbnb made React 8 for the newer feature needed. Yeah, I know, Chang, it's awesome. And scripts. So scripts are just like a way for us to tell the terminal. If you guys never seen a terminal, you can go ahead, type CMD, or for Mac users terminal, or for Linux user, usually it's just terminal, but you can just also use like a KDE terminal or any other environment that you have on. So this is kind of like a terminal. It lets you like talk to your computer without a pretty interface. And then the browser list. And then the browser list is just like a way to say, hey, if it's in Internet Explorer, this should happen. If it's in Safari, this should happen, because not all browsers are the same. It's kind of like saying like Safari speaks, I don't know, like French. Chrome speaks Italian. It's my favorite browser. Netscape, for example, speaks Spanish, right? And you kind of like want to make sure that like you can build something that it's understood from each browser. Cool. Package.json is done. Now I want to go back to this index.js, because this is where like the magic happens, right? If we go into index.js, we're gonna see a whole bunch of stuff, right? So how does index.js works? Well, index.js is a way for you to build a block in that HTML, right? If we go back in the HTML, you see how here it says root. What I'm saying is this is a placeholder, right? It's kind of like a parking spot, right? I'm saying like, okay, I don't know, when I go to my grocery shopping, I want to make sure that the spot in A3 it's completely free. So I want to put a placeholder there. So when I have my car, when I'm coming in, then I can just park over there, because I'm pretty sure that there was like reserved for me or anything like that. So it's just a placeholder. So if you go in index.js, you're going to see that here it says root element, right? And this is a way to say, React, I want you to do something. Everything that is in here in this app, right, which is the app.js, I want you to temporarily put it where my root is, right? So it's just saying like, okay, I'm coming in with my car, the spot is there, cool, let's park. Perfect. So if we go ahead and we look at the app.js, this is where the real like React kind of like starts to take shape. So here I see that I am importing React from React. Guys, again, this whole syntax is going to be JS. Some of them might not be familiar with it, so I'm trying to explain it with like, you know, real examples as much as I can. There's a lot of stuff going on. Of course, I'm not going to go through too much behind the scenes, because otherwise we're going to stay here for like another day or another week. So I'm going to go like really simple on this. If you guys like, you know, have any questions, again, I'm going to look back and forth to the chat in case I'm like missing something. Oh, I was thinking, can I put this in like slow mode? What's that? Papa chat. Yes, beautiful. There it goes. Took me a while to realize that, but okay, cool. So I have the chat there. Perfect. Okay. So again, we have our package React, right? As you can see right here. What we're doing is we are importing this React component from the library, right? And you say, okay, what's the difference between a component and a library? So what I'm doing here, I'm giving it a name. I'm saying, hey, every time I want to use React, I want to use React like this, right? because that's how the React package is built. We have style CSS. Remember that style CSS thing here, right? This is what pretty much gives like the facelift to our application, the nice like aesthetics. And finally, we have our export function. Just think as like a verb, like, you know, saying like, okay, when I do this, then this whole thing, right? This whole thing, you can think as if is going exactly where? In my root, right? It's as if I'm replacing this with this block of code, right? Because again, I'm going to the index.js. Index.js is saying, hey, I have a root placeholder. That's my parking spot. My app, it's there. Okay, cool. So I'm going to go there in my app.js. I'm going to take this block and I'm going to put it where the root is, right? So if we go look into the index.html, it's going to put it here. Cool? Clear? Dope. Okay. All right. So now, and again, why would you use HTML instead of React? Well, you see how in React you can just like write a component in here. This is called a component. Write a component here, and we're gonna be able to pretty much reuse it over and over again. Okay, so you're basically running JS script in the HTML space where the root is. Yes, exactly. React is pretty much generating that block of code, the div code, and it's gonna replace it there in the index.html. What React at the end of the day does, it generates HTML pages. Because again, remember when I said at the beginning, the Chrome browser only understands HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. React is not a thing for the browser. React is just like another, like language that the browser does not speak. So what we're gonna do is replacing this block of code as the index.html. There was a comment from the Instagram live. Cool. Now let's go ahead. I'm just gonna write this a little bit different. It's just like a modern way to do it. Constant app. And again, this is like more like JavaScript-y type of things, so don't worry about it. Okay, I like this better. So cool. So now we have these little things. Now, okay, let's say for example in here we want a bigger text, right? So what we could do, it's something like, okay, let's go on Google, right? Let's say bigger text HTML, blah blah. Right? We're gonna go there and say like, hey, we can use something like big as like a text element, or we can use something like headings. This is again, I know it already, but this is like pretty easy to kind of like find. So headings are pretty much like different sizes for my text in there. So here, if I say try yourself, you're gonna see that if I put like heading 1, it's gonna look like this, heading 6 is gonna look like that, right? So if I have age 6 here, I'm gonna go ahead and if I change this into an age 6, right? You see how the text is way smaller. That's because I'm changing the element, right? So let's do more fun stuff. We talked about how the whole HTML element works. We talked about all the pretty much like nitty-gritty of the application. Now let's build a component, right? Let's build a component. Let's build a bunch of components, and then we can see how they kind of like interact to each other and how everything works within the page. Okay, guys, what I like to do is having a new directory called components, right? And here I want to put like a component, right? So I did create file, and I'm going to call it home something, I don't know, JSX, right? So somebody asked, what's the difference between JS and JSX? So why, for example, you said that app was a component and it's JS, and why is this a JSX? Is it the same? Yes or no? It is the same. Okay, I would say yes. The only difference is just the way that your IDE is kind of like looking at the code. Let's say that for now. And React is kind of like more prone to use an upgrade of JS, which is called JSX, because sometimes like it uses stuff that you don't really do in HTML, but it's really similar to HTML. And we're gonna see that pretty soon. Cool. So I have a home. Nice. I'm gonna create a component. Maybe let's say a red box. Pretty simple. So actually, why don't we call this a red box then? Let's call it red box. Red box.jsx. Cool. All right. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna import React. Right? That's the first thing we have to do. Why? Because otherwise, without React, you can do anything. The second thing we're gonna do, we're gonna create the component. So I'm gonna call a red box. Cool. And remember always to export it. Default red box. Cool. All right, we have our component, right? Now, that's the part that I love. This is like where the components actually happen. Okay, so guys, quick parenthesis. There is a thing called class components versus functional components. It's the same thing. It's pretty much just the way that you write components, right? You can write it with a function, or you can write it with a class. It's just, some people prefer class because they're more kind of like, like me, come from like, Java and other type of languages. They use classes, but some other people just do straight functions. Behind the scenes, V8. Damn, I gotta explain V8. Okay. So V8, V8 is the engine. Let's say this is a kind of like manager of the Chrome browser, right? If the Chrome was like a restaurant, a facility, V8 is kind of like the manager. Yeah, more like a manager. They just kind of like manage operations, right? What happens when something happens in the browser, something happens outside the browser. Guys, if you guys just got in the live, the link is on isgd/zep live to join the live. I'm doing a quick live workshop to kind of like see how it goes. You see there's some code on the screen, all the cool stuff. All right, so what was I? So the way that it works is pretty much I'm saying that I like to use this syntax. Syntax is just like the way that you write code. So I like to use this, which is called a functional component, right? If you guys really like React, after my little introduction, you can go on the tutorial of React website and you can kind of learn more about it. I think they use class components. Yeah, they do. They use class components. But it's just a different way to write it. I like to write functional components because behind the scenes, let's say like it's more performant and itself, it's faster to write, way faster to write. I mean, imagine writing all of this versus like a couple of lines like this. So makes no sense to use class components. But some people still like it because it kind of like, makes you feel more of like a programmer because, there's like a whole bunch of stuff that happens with class components that slowly they're being integrated in these functional components as well. All right, cool. So I'm gonna write something here. Don't freak out. We're gonna explain what does this mean. Okay. So guys, when you have a function, right? When I have a function, it's literally a box, right? Where I can put something in. Let's say I put a number in, right? That says like 2, and the function just adds another 2, and the output is gonna be 4, right? Pretty simple. This is the same exact concept. There is a box, right? In this case, a red box, where you put something in, right? And outside is gonna return, right? Something outside the box. Cool. So my render, it's what I see on the page. Cool? Follow me on this? And my return, right? It's what I am kind of like getting out of that box, right? So just a quick parenthesis with class components, right? Let's say you have your class and then you have your little component. I'm not gonna do the extend and all the stuff. Like this is gonna give me okay. With class components, I have something called the render, right? And the return, right? With the functional components, I only have a return. Now you say, how does it work? Like, why is the functional components that we're using here only have a return? Like, what happened to the render? Like, how do I know what to render? Well, the render in the functional component is kind of like already done behind the scenes. So as soon as you return something, he knows that he has to render that something. I'm going to explain right away. Quick parenthesis, somebody asked in the chat. I felt like the urge to kind of like explain. So return. Okay. So I said we have a little return here, right? Cool. And now in this return, you see how it's like squiggling already, saying, hey, I'm expecting something, like you gotta give me something. Okay, cool, I'm gonna give you div. If again, div does make sense, you go div HTML, and we're gonna look that a div is nothing more than a container. Cool, it's just like a way to encapsulate stuff in it, like data in it. Cool, so div, let's say I'm gonna say, hey, I am a red box. Div, boom. See how that squiggly thing completely disappeared? That's because we're writing red code, so the code sandbox, the IDE, actually understands it. Awesome. So now we're doing all this cool stuff, right? I am exporting it, which means that my component, it's ready to be used. Okay, how do we use the component? All right, so since it's only a div, all we're gonna see and rendered is gonna be that div, that container, right? So if we go on our application here, right, and let's say after the little box, I wanna just display what I put in this component, which is, hey, I'm a red box. I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna say import, I'm gonna give it a name, most likely red box, just because I wanna make sure that when I look at my components, I actually know like what I'm talking about. From, what am I getting it from? I'm getting it from the components and redbox. Cool. Nothing happened, right? Nothing got displayed yet. So we're still on the same exact point that we were before. So this is saying, hey, I know that in your component folder, you have something called redbox. I would love to use it, right? We wrote that code. We are proud of it. We want to use it. Cool. So let's go here and let's use that component, right? So we're going to have little caret and we're going to have the name of the component and we're going to close the tag. Oh, look at that. We have the little text that we wrote in. Guys, again, this component is only text, but you can make super complicated components. You can make components that are like thousands and thousands of lines long. Like depends how much of what's it called, like an advanced component you want to write. Cool, everybody good? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Are you going too fast? You going too slow? How are we doing? Let's see if I'm not talking about myself. Okay, there's 8 people watching. Cool. So I'm not talking to myself. Okay. So let's go back to the chat. Okay. All right. So we have our component. Beautiful. We have it in there. But it's a red box, right? So should it be red instead of being orange? Should be red, right? Okay. So we're going to go in our, not in our index, remember. Not there, sorry. In app.js. And we're going to do something with this component, right? We're going to say, hey, this component should have a red background. So we're going to go in our component file and we're going to do something here, right? Should I do in style? Should I just use the style sheet? Okay, let's just do a in style. That's because it's simple. So if you guys go ahead, again, Google is your best friend. Don't forget, even when you are gonna have a job, you're gonna use Google a lot. HTML in style, inline style. That's it, inline style. Cool. So remember what we said? That CSS style thing. We want to be able to make boxes like this one. Look, this could be a React component one day. So inline style here, it's saying, okay, you can use the word style. So I'm going to go back there. What is it here? Style equal. I'm going to open the parentheses. Sorry, the curly braces. Sorry, quotations. Not curly braces, quotations. That's what it's called. Double quotations. And I'm going to put a style in there, right? Now, let's say color red. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. So color red. Cool. All right, what does it say? The style prop expects a mapping from style, not a string. For example, yeah. Okay, so this is why we're using JSX. Okay, and then since it's an object, it has this thing, right? So that works. Div style color itself is a, yeah, it goes. Okay. So why did you not accept it? Well, if you were in HTML, they could have done, yeah. So if you were in HTML, then you could have done regularly style equal this, blah, blah, blah. But since we are working with JSX or with the React itself, then it needs to have this syntax, right? So don't forget, two parentheses. And guys, for the developers out there, this is just, style is a prop. We're going to go into that, what property means in React. And this is just an object. So this object is going to be referred to the style, and it's going to say, hey, put the color red in there. But hey, we said I'm a box. I'm not a red text. I'm a box. So I don't want to use the color property, but I want to use the background color. And that doesn't work because we need quotations. Cool. We have a red box, ladies and gentlemen. How is it going, guys? You're doing good, man. All right, you're doing a great job. I'm going to be also replaying this. Haha, I can learn even more. Perfect. All right, guys. Cool. We have a red box. How cool is that? I remember when I was learning React, I went to like the first conference from like Facebook. It's called the Facebook ID8, and it was a beautiful experience. And I did not understand anything that they pretty much were talking about, like nothing. And I was looking to documentation. It was really frustrating, guys. It's going to be super frustrating at first, but if you really like it, if you really have the passion, if you love to talk about it, I would really like suggest you to dive into it, because then one day you're going to have a job, and if you love code and you can do something that you love, that's like the best job in the world. Cool. So we have our red in there that it says, hey, I'm a red box. So now it's officially a red box, right? Just to summarize a little bit, review real quick. Let's close a couple of stuff so we don't get too much of a overhead. Should we go like all the way to index? Yeah, let's do index. Okay. So guys, index has a root. The root has an app. The app component has something else in there. Has div, which is this stuff here, right? And if you guys want to, you can actually see it. Oh wait, here. Okay. So if you guys want to, you can actually see it, right? You can see on the preview right here. The app has a div. You see it? Hello code sandbox, right? You can write whatever you want here. You can say, hey, hello, Zap value. Cool. That's my nickname online. If you just type the value of Google, you're gonna find me anywhere. So if you want to reach out, you know what to do. Hello, Zap value. Then you have this little text here, start editing, right? And then our component, right? So I wonder what if I copy and paste this component over and over again? What do you guys think is going to happen? Since it's dynamic, right? What do you think is going to happen? Somebody write in the chat, please interact with me. I feel like I'm talking to a screen. That's like me at work. All right, there is 8 people online. I'm pretty sure some of you guys can go ahead in the chat and write what's going to happen if I copy and paste this red box over and over and over again on this page. Waiting for you guys. It's going to repeat. Cool. So Chong said it's going to repeat. Let's see what happens. If you guys, are there, like if you guys can actually see where I am, if you're following along, you actually went ahead and copied the code, right? And paste it multiple times, and we see it's going to repeat. And this is the most beautiful thing about React. We don't need to have another, how many lines is that? Another 3 or 4 lines of code in our index HTML, right? In this root that we said comes from the index that we say in the app, right? Yeah, cool. So what do you think is going to happen if we copy and paste this app over and over again? It's going to repeat, right? Cool. So here we have a component inside a component. And the reason why that works that way is because React is called unidirectional, meaning that stuff just go from the top to the bottom, right? And we're going to see how to move data in between, how to move data from the top to the bottom, right? So let's go back. Was that pretty cool? Did you guys like that? The little why does it say top chat when there's live chat in there? Okay, cool. So as you can see, React creates component really, really fast. And you can save the components in different areas of your code. So you're going to be able to replicate that behavior over and over again. Cool. Let's do something else to Redbox. But I'm saying, hey, I'm a Redbox. It's a little bit boring, right? I want something that will just change dynamically. Like let's say I want to be able to say in my app.js, I want to be able to say Redbox, and then here I say hey, the text is actually going to be something else, like hey, I am not a Redbox anymore. Something like that, right? I would love to do that, right? I would love to have this being able to change what I see here, right? So if you save, you're going to see that nothing is happening, right? Because you're saying oh yeah, sure, you have a text here, but my Redbox here doesn't know what to do with it. It has no idea what to do with it. And so guys, this is when we are introducing properties of the component. Components can have 1 to endless props. Usually the best thing to do is having 5, 6 props, and then kind of break the component a little bit more, right? So if, for example, your component has, let's say 50 props, you wanna actually break that component in a smaller component that has the 1/5 of that, and then another component that's another 1/5, and then another component until you have all 50 props that you need. Usually 50 props is just stuff that you have in big projects like React 8. React 8, I'm pretty sure it has a lot of props. Yeah, those are all the props that you can have, right? Yep, there's props too. Here goes. All right, how are we doing? Good, bad? Should I start? Should I slow down a little bit? Do you guys want me to go over something else? Again, the link is in the Instagram live. It's isgd.zep live. isgd/zeplive. If you guys need, just go your Google Chrome on the address bar, not on the actual Google, and type is.gd/zeplive. And you're gonna be able to see the code, and you're gonna be able to follow along and see the chat. And see the live. All right, guys, cool. So let's introduce props. Props, it's amazing. The first time I ever seen props, I was like, this is crazy, this is magic, it's witchcraft, whatever you want to call it, and I have no idea what's going on. So we're gonna try to simplify it for you guys. So let's say that this red box right here wants to get this other text, right, that we put in there. Hey, I am not a text box anymore, right? I want to be able to like change whatever text I want here, because right, it's so annoying to go back into your component. Maybe you have like 1,000 components, so you have to go look for your component, and you're gonna say like, hey, I have to do this. Hey, I'm not a red box, and then everything changes. But what if like I want to change only one of them? I don't want to change all of them, right? I want to be able to maybe like make one that says I'm not a red box, and other ones that says I am a red box, or other kind of behaviors. Now, the first one that we're gonna do is just change all of them, but in a more dynamic way, so you don't have to go all the way to your component and change it here, but you can actually just send it here, right? Does that make sense, what I just said? Yes? No? Cool. Guys, don't let me scold you. There is 9 people now. There's another person. Guys, again, if you're in the chat, please say hi, so I know who I'm talking to. There's a bunch of people. Kind of fun, this thing is kind of fun. I wish I had the Facebook Live on my other side, but it's kind of fun. Because now some people had to go to Instagram and, instead of like scrolling and check their DMs or anything like that, they have to keep their screen on this. It's witchcraft. Yeah, it is witchcraft. So, hey Araceli, how's it going? You joining us? So, cool. Let's go ahead. Let's say, hey, I want to say something here. Hey, I'm not a red box anymore, right? So you see how here it says text, right? So this text is something that we defined. We said, hey, we want to refer to text every time we are writing something in here, right? It's gonna make sense in a second. So you see how here we said, oh, it's a function. So it has an input, you put something in, the box does something, and then it spits something out, right? We're about to put something in the box, right? To actually like change it dynamically. So every time you put something in, then it shows something else. So here I'm gonna write props, right? Pay attention to this. And this is, yeah, it's fine. And I'm gonna show you what this looks like. I'm gonna put a console log, guys, to debug. Debug means squish bugs. Bugs in programming is just errors, like stuff that happens that you can never like think of happening, like, because maybe you never seen the error before, you never experienced like, debugging before. So this is the easy way to debug. We're gonna just print, and we're gonna see like how does that work. So console log is a way to pretty much like say, hey, I'm gonna use the developer tools to print whatever is happening in your function. So for now, I'm just gonna say props, right? And I like to do this thing. It's nothing like different, to tell the truth. It's just like space. It's really something as easy as space can like save you so much time to just go through your console and look at everything. Because here I could have like 1,000 different console logs for like 1,000 different like props. And I wanna just print props. That's it. That's literally all I wanna do. I don't wanna do anything else. And I wanna see what happens in my application. So on the front end, an Ultimate IDE where you can go live, like comment and code at the same time. There is actually such a thing. So somebody on YouTube Live just asked there should be in an Ultimate IDE where you can go live comment, and code at the same time. There is something like that. it's a little bit harder to set up. That's why I went this route. But if you guys like are interested, like I will definitely like send you some resources at the end of the video to kind of like get you started on like setting up your own IDE. I'm gonna show you my IDE as well. You can guess it's orange. But okay, let's go ahead. Cool. So we have props, all right? And you say like, okay, it's that, but nothing changed. Like I don't see anything changed here. Oh, we see something here though. What is this? This is our console, right? Now, Code Sandbox, it's amazing, right? Because we can actually see the console here. But if you want to work in console, you would do Ctrl-Shift-I, or simply go to your Chrome, more tools, developer tools, and check the console here, right? It's the same thing. You see the props here. Now you see all this bunch of errors, right? Because everything is pretty much like synchronized with Code Sandbox. So it's gonna be a little bit like tough to kind of like really see what's happening right away, because Code Sandbox is putting on top, because Code Sandbox itself, it's an application, and we're running an application within an application. Application inception. Yeah, that happens a lot. So okay, wait a second. My live just so apparently on Instagram you can only be live for like an hour and a half, I think. I don't know, maybe because I don't have a business account. Okay, cool. So I was saying you have all these errors because Code Sandbox itself is an application, and you are building an application in an application. So this is sketching all the stuff that Sandbox is talking to the browser to do, right? Cool. So here we're going to use just this console, just make it nice and easy. Sorry for the crash there. Apparently Instagram only has like an hour and a half of live consecutively time. So, okay, we're going to go ahead. And we're going to see here, oh, look at that. We're going to have a props object, right? That it says, hey, I'm not a Redbox anymore. Huh. What do you think this come from? Let's see it. If we go in our app.js, can I split the screen here? Ooh, I can even split the screen here. Nice. So, can I do that? Cool. So, here it says, hey, I'm not a Redbox anymore. But this is called text. Why does it know from our props? Well, props is what's called a keyword in React, meaning that if you try to, for example, like have your own variable or have anything else, let me again, real quick, this.gd zep live. Guys, if you did lives before, please give me some suggestions or some tips, because this is my first time. So hopefully everything is going well so far. Cool. So what I'm saying, okay, so props is a keyword for React. It's saying all the properties will be shown when I'm using this word props, right? Okay. So if here I say props, and then I want to go in this props object, right? Which think of like just a placeholder, just like a container, as if like you have a shelf and you have a whole bunch of like maybe like drawers. Let's say like a drawer, more like a drawer. So I say like you have a drawer, you have a bunch of stuff in those drawers. You just take out the drawer, right? You just like pull it out, open it, and say, oh, there is a little text in there. So if you want to go to text, we're going to do a dot text. This is a way to go inside the props object and pretty much, yes, that, and pretty much display it. So if we now run it again, you see how here it says, hey, I'm not a Redbox anymore, right? Ignore this part, undefined, might be a behavior of Code Sandbox, because pretty much here we're not passing. Also, another technical term is to say you pass props down, right? How we said that React passes everything down, right? Big component, app component, then there is a red box component, then there is a green box component, an orange box component, anything else. Always pass down, never go up in certain cases. Okay, so guys, also I want a vote for the people in the chat to kind of like see if you guys want to go all the way to like build like a dynamic application, or if we should stop a little bit beforehand, just because stuff can get a little bit complicated. But if you guys are up to the challenge, we can definitely do that. It's just gonna take like another hour, maybe an hour and a half. So just write in the chat. We are live on YouTube to build a web application from scratch with React, this technology that is developed from Facebook. And yeah, just write in the chat. Say, hey, I'm down to like do another hour and a half. I think that after this live, YouTube will be able to save the video. I'm not 100% sure, because I've never done this before. Maybe like, you know, it's also like way too long for the video, so I can actually shorten up, maybe, you know, do an actual plan, have like a, you know, like something that I know beforehand, so I can just like, you know, blab about stuff while I'm thinking of what to say. Okay, so we're good. We're going too slow, we're going too fast. You lost me, I'm good. You guys tell me. Yes, good. Okay. Okay, Instagram looks, people are okay. Cool. How are we doing on YouTube? I know it's pretty like messy to kind of like, you know, go back to the video. Maybe somebody has me on like a half, maybe has another screen on that stuff. So I totally understand if it takes time to go to the chat and respond. But please do so I know where everybody is. I don't lose anybody. How are we doing? Okay. Everybody's good on... Okay. Everybody's good on Instagram? Cool. Dope. Oh, I don't have my Facebook open at all, so if somebody messaged me, I'm so sorry. Notifications are off too. Oh, man. Oh, man. Uh-oh. Okay. People are on it. Cool. All right. Let's keep going. We're talking about props, right? So we said that if you do prop text, then you're going to see, hey, I'm not a red box anymore. If here I go ahead and say, like, instead of text, I'm saying like name, right? And I call this Zep, right? Then I don't see anything in there, right? But if I tap text, because we are printing only text here, right? Make sense? Then I'm gonna see Zep there. I'm gonna see undefined here because of course there is nothing else here. But again, if I go ahead and type text, and then I can type whatever I want. I can even say hello world, which is the first program that you do if you just started programming. Hello world, or I don't know, let's say like this is so fun. A lot of emoji in there. See, then there is different ones because we're printing the so this is how it works. This is how it works. JavaScript goes line by line, right? For developers, it's called single-threaded, meaning that it does one thing at a time. So it goes to line 1, does this, line 2, line 3, blah, blah, blah. Goes to line 11, goes, okay, red box. Hey, I am not a red box anymore. Gucci, cool. Hey, I'm not a red box anymore. Okay, cool. So it goes in here in the red box component. It says props and print the text. So you're going to see, hey, I'm not a red box anymore. Then it goes to the next line. It goes Zep. It goes in here, console log, prop text. Boom, prop text. It goes in here, hello world, blah blah. You got the gist, right? Cool. So, all right. So now we said, okay, we're actually displaying the prop text in the console, right? But what ultimately we want to do is display it in our component, right? We want to actually display it inside the box, right? Makes sense. So what do you think we're gonna do? I want to give you this like little challenge. How can we display hey, I'm not in Redbox anymore, hey, or Zap, or any other? Let's just do one for now. This is the first one, just not to confuse people. I should have gotten some water. Nisa, if you're online, oh no, you can't, because I gotta let you in. Man, never mind. So, okay. So this is the challenge. I want you to display whatever I am, remember, passing down to my Redbox component through the prop text. When I'm passing down the prop text, I want to be able to see that prop here. Maybe give it away a little bit. Can I give you like, I don't know, like 2 minutes to kind of like, you know, wrap your head around this and like see how's it going? Two minutes, guys, 2 minutes. Again, I want you to be able to display whatever I pass down to text. How you guys doing? Good? You lost me? How are we doing? Also, I don't know why I have headphones in. I just realized this. Because I'm not really listening to anybody or talking to anybody, so what do I have headphones on? One of those things that are like, oh, it's like one of those things that are like, oh, I'm streaming with my phone and I'm like, actually looking for my phone. 1 more minute, guys, 1 more minute. 1 more minute left to look at the code and being able to print whatever we pass down through text, through the text prop. That's my brother, by the way, in chat. He just asked, what are you doing? Okay. Instagram looks fine. Anybody's good on Instagram? My brother completely refused to follow me on this adventure to build a web application. So that's cool. Guys, I'm gonna pause the live on Instagram a little quick just to check what Facebook people are doing. Okay. How we doing? Nobody gave me an answer yet. Let's see how we doing. make sure that the Instagram, the Facebook people are good too. Okay, cool. So we're gonna go ahead and do this prop. So the answer was to simply put this prop.text. Guess where? Here, right? Because it's text at the end of the day. So we can do that. But there's a little problem. What's happening here? Well, we wanted to print props.text, which makes sense. But we want to print the value of props.text. So we should have the little parentheses there anymore. Okay, cool. Facebook Live are good. So guys, look at this magic. Now, if I create another box, right? Let's create another box in there. Right? And I change this to, let's say something like hello Zap. Look at that. Even though it was the same exact component, I should make it a little bit bigger because you can really see much there. H4, that's it. Yeah. Oh no, this thing has yeah. Okay, so I just do that. I don't have a box anymore. Cool. The first one says I don't have a box anymore. The second one said hello Zap. Now, if we keep going, we're gonna have another one. For example, for the people that responded, hello Chong. Right? So now look how powerful that is. You have one component, but with the use of props, you're gonna be able to dynamically change content without going inside the actual source of the component and change the line every time. Isn't that wonderful? We can do a whole bunch of stuff with this. We good? Okay, we still have 5 people. Okay, that's pretty good. Oh, 4 people now. All right, good. So guys, should we get into state? Should we get into actually like persist state within the application? For the five of you, I'm talking to you. No, sorry, to you. 5 of you, should we do state? State is just a way to pretty much like persist and change stuff within your component. Yes, no. Facebook people. State chunks. State is just a way to manipulate data inside your component. Should we do that? Okay. John says sure. Okay. How's the Facebook people doing? Guys, whoever tuned in, we are doing a free live workshop. I decided to do this workshop because a lot of people might be a little bit like, you know, frustrated with the fact that there are not going to be so many jobs. So maybe that would push more people to get in tech, even like be a freelancer at some point. Using React, we have a code sandbox, and the link for the code sandbox, it's in the live description itself. So cool, we got the props. We finished with props. Props is a big topic. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and use state. So what state is, how should we do this? Should we do something like, okay, let's go back to one component so we can go slow, take it slow. But it's not typical. What are we doing here? State, okay. So the first thing that I want to do with state is maybe create a button, right? So in this return, bear with me for a second. When I cut it, I'm going to put my parentheses back, and I'm going to put a div here, one here, and one here. So he has a little box / div. Okay, this little box is there. I actually want this style to be on the div itself. So I have a little box there. Cool. Okay. So now if we want to use a state, we're going to use something called a hook. And I'm pretty sure that I'm going to lose maybe like 80% of you guys, but it's totally normal. It's the first time that we're doing this, so it's totally okay. Okay, so this is hard. So how do we persist data in React within a component? So what we said, we're using state, and let's think about this. Let's say that you have this huge drawer, right? And you have different drawers. Of course, this drawer. But only one person can open that drawer, right? So if I say Zep drawer, I only want to be able to have one person that opens the Zep drawer. So maybe I'm going to call that guy what's it called? A Zep drawer. Sorry, give me a second. I'm just reading some messages on Instagram. Some people kind of like got lost there a little bit. I'm just trying to get them back. Okay, good. So, okay. So let's say, for example, I have a drawers, right? A bunch of drawers, as I said, or like a shelf, whatever you can think about it. And that drawer, it's only saying, okay, I have a manager assigned to this, right? And I cannot be opened by anybody else, right? So let's say the name of my drawer, it's, let's say, data, right? And the person that can open my drawer, it's only set data, right? And I'm going to say equal to use state. And I'm going to open and close parentheses, right? Nothing crazy. Now let's say here the main drawer is to say, let's say data. It's like the basic, like the first value that we find in there before like anybody else goes in that drawer and changes the content of it. So we're gonna go into data, and we're gonna make it dynamic, right? So I want to maybe like a button, no, something cool, but little button there. Button there, good. And I want to say something like change. Right? Like change the content of this drawer, right? So if I am Zep and I go into Zep drawer, I want to be able to take whatever is in the drawer and put something back in, right? So when I say this change thing. Okay, but I also want my H4 to show, right, the little box to show what's there now, right? And remember, if I only write data, so let's say content, it's better to kind of understand. If I only write data, as you see, it's just text, so it's just gonna write literally like data. But if we put it through parentheses, this actually refers to the content, right, of the data, right? So this is what's happening here, right? I'm having two variables, right? I'm gonna try to explain it as much as I can. So I'm saying the data, it's the content initially, right? What I put it like in the content. This is gonna break, guys. So actually, not really. No, wait. Okay. Oh, Here goes. Okay. So I'm gonna say, oh, this is a data, right? And my data is this drawer, right? That's the drawer. Now, initially, in this drawer, there is only a string, a text, whatever you want to call it, called content, right? But then I have this set data, which is this the person, the manager, right? The person manager that is pretty much managing my drawer, right? So if I print the data right away, then I have content, regular content, right? Because that's the string here, right? If I change this into content 2, then we'll see content 2 in there. Whatever you put there. This is called the initial state, right? So I can even put it in a little variable just so I remember it. Initial data, it's called initial data, and I'm putting there a content right there, right? Cool. Initial data, boom, right there. See, same exact thing. If I put content 2 and I save. Oh, sorry, that's a constant. Oops. Initial data, set data, content. Oh, okay. Yeah, for runtime. Yeah, that doesn't work. Okay, never mind. We have to do something a little bit more than that, like a custom hook type of thing. But we're not gonna get into that today because it's a little bit. It's gonna take like a while. So okay, just a content, just a string, right in there. You're gonna say, okay, this is like an initial state. Nothing crazy. This is what I find in my drawer at first, right? And I'm displaying it inside of the H4. Cool. How are we doing there? Let's see how many people are online. So I can kind of see if people are connecting on Instagram as well or not. Okay, still 5 people online. Okay. Cool. So now, let's say that every time that let's say every time I click on this button, right, I want this content to change to something else, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to create a function, right? So the same thing as before. So change content, right? Cool. And this create content, this function is going to change the content, right? So what I want to do is I want to say set data. I want to use that manager for that content and say, hey, I want this set data to be another content instead, right? So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say button. Every time I click on this button, every time I click on this button, why is this so weirdly formatted? Click, yeah. When I click on this button, I want to say, hey, every time I click on this button, I want you to change the content of it, right? So if I go ahead and click on change, then it says another content there, right? You see how props still says, hey, I'm not in Redbox anymore? That's because we didn't change the props, right? State has nothing to do with props, guys. Props is the way that you pass down data. State is the way that you manage internal data. Let me check with some people. I'm gonna go ahead and do this prop on Instagram one more time. Give me 1 second. We're almost done, so just bear with me a second. Okay. So what we're saying is that this little change content will just change the data Oh, there is a little semicolon there. We don't want that there. There it goes. We'll change that to like something else, right? So if I refresh my stuff, I have content again, because that's pretty much a whatchamacallit, that's pretty much the initial state, right, of content. But then if I go ahead and click on this button, then it will change the content, which means that we'll go in here, we'll go to that drawer, and we put something else in that drawer, right, which is another content. Make sense? Yes? No? You kind of lost me? I'm good. Sorry, I didn't want to see that. I want to look at the chat. Make sense? Yeah, John? Good? Good? Okay. I have a confirmation. That's good. And so, we can do a whole bunch of stuff, right? It could be something as easy as changing a text on a box, or it can be something as hard as making a request to an API, right? Let's say, like, I don't know, I want all the images from Instagram, and I'm using the Instagram API that will give me back like all these images, and then my state will say, okay, every time I click on this button, I want a new image inside my web application. Well, this is all we had for today. It's been an hour, almost 2 hours, actually. It's 15 minutes from the 2 hours. If you guys want to ask any questions, I'm going to open the window for questions for like 5 minutes, around 5 minutes. Hopefully this video is saved. I'm not sure. I'm going to try to make it way shorter than what it was. Just because I wanted to make sure that like you guys actually understand the concept of it, and not so much like, you know, the syntax and all this stuff. Because if you work like, let's say, in Angular or anything else, like in Flutter actually uses like a similar way to like work with state. It's the same thing. So I want you to guys, like, you know, practice, like create another component, right? Like let's say I want to create a green box, right? So I'm going to go to components, going to go new file. I'm going to have a green box.jsx. You can do JS, same thing. I prefer that because you have the icon and the syntax highlight. And I call this a green box. Right? Green box, blah, blah, blah. Cool. And then instead of saying, oh, we can leave content, sure. But instead of saying red, here is green, right? And then we're going where? In our app.js. We're gonna say, hey, besides a green box, I also have a red box. I also have a green box. Green box from boom, components, boom, green box, right? And then here, I'm gonna have a green box, boom, button. Cool, right? So I want you to practice on this. Create as many components as you want. Make them, you know, like kind of like interact. So here, for example, if I don't want to have text, I want to say something else. Like let's say, I don't know. Could we say input, for example, something like that, right? And in there is let's do strings. For now, let's do strings. Next time I'm gonna do data. Input, for example, here we're gonna say, hey, this is data for the green box. Cool. Simply data for the inbox, and then we're gonna go back to the green box, right? Remember the props. Now we don't have text anymore, right? We have input. So we're gonna leave input there, right? And we don't have data, but we have props.input. Remember, this is just a string. So to make sure that it has a behavior, then it has the, hey, this is the green box. Also, I'm gonna do this also because, like, you know, I want to leave you guys the code at some point, so you can have like a way to look at it. H1 H1, let's say this is the props example, boom, boom, H1. That's the props example. And then there is this is not a props example, but this is a state example. Right? So we have our props example, which is the green box, and the state example, which is our red box. If you want to make it a little bit nicer, you can add some padding in there. Padding in there. Padding, what should we write it? 5 pixel. Oh wait, is this? How do you add multiple? Why is there a parenthesis there? What? Why is there a parenthesis there? Multiple styles inline CSS. Cool. So now we worked with state. We did the props. Yeah, we did both of them. That's good. So we did the state example. We said that for the state example, pretty much there is a drawer called data. There's a set data, which is like an assigned person that can only open that specific drawer. The initial state, which is the initial data that there is inside that data drawer, is the content, which is just a string. And then we have our H4, which is pretty much the content of your box, so your little red box, your red box component. And the onClick, which is pretty much like the function that is passed through the onClick behavior. So when I click on my little box here, red box here, then it's gonna change to whatever you are telling that person to change to, right? So the set data is kind of like your person that goes in your data drawer, open the drawer, replaces the content with something else, in this case another content, right? And if I do want to see the initial state again, I need to refresh the application. The green box instead has something called a prop, is a prop example, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass down, remember, React is only unidirectional. So we need to pass down the text prop, which is, hey, I'm not a red box anymore in terms of the red box. In terms of the green box is input, hey, this is the data from the green box, and this is what is displayed here. Guys, it's been more than an hour and a half. Again, I did this just because I wanted more people to get in tech, kind of demystify the myth that React is really, really hard to learn. I've been doing it for a while. I had a really tough time myself, to tell the truth. It can get like pretty crazy. But with the right directions, with the right structure, we can definitely like build web applications. They are performant, they are fast, they actually don't have like too much of like like hacky code in there. Actually, my colleague actually just connected. So Adam, thank you for mentoring me on React as well, on like the craziest components that I've seen. Yeah, so if you have questions, 5 minutes, another window for questions. We did the summary, we did the review, we kind of understood what Code Sandbox and the packaging pretty much like behavior does. And I am definitely going to answer your questions. Again, go on the live chat or if on YouTube Live, or if you are connected from Instagram, I'm also there live at ZepValue. So yeah, feel free to ask me any questions. 5 minutes. We can like literally cut it at 7. Perfect time. Oh, thank you, Chong. I appreciate it that you followed it through. Does it make sense now? If you want, we can also connect through the live on Instagram, so we can talk. You can ask questions there. I can invite you to the live. Up to you. If you just want to write in chat, you can also just write in chat. Good. 3 more minutes. Also, guys, I want to show you this office. It's crazy. Look how beautiful this thing is. It's all orange too. It's perfect. I have an orange shirt and I'm in an orange office. I know. You can tell it's my office, right? Mind if I ask live? No, not absolutely. Go ahead. Let me invite you. All right.
One sec. Sorry. I'm running like late that code and stuff right now.
Okay.
I gotta flip things. Hi.
Hey, John. What's up?
Hey, John. Pretty good. Fellow programmer here and parkour person.
Nice. Yeah, I remember you.
I saw you followed me. I was like, wait a second, another parkour person in program. Anyway, at some point you kind of mentioned the use of JS to talk to Chrome and stuff like that.
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Oh, you mentioned using JavaScript to talk to communicate with browsers such as Chrome. So I was curious because I know some people kind of use Python and stuff, so I was kind of like trying to figure out.
So Chrome only understands JavaScript. JavaScript is the language that you talk to Chrome for, but that doesn't mean that you can't pretty much like make web applications with Python. You can make web application with Python with something called the Django. Yeah. Either that, or if you want to start a little bit easier than that, you can use something called Flask.
Wait, repeat that?
Flask. I'm gonna write it inside.
Oh, I've heard of Flask. Yes.
Yeah. If you want to do that, you can build what application is that. For now, the standard is in React, which is JavaScript or TypeScript.
Sure, React is pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah. You can pretty much so in like more advanced programs, you can either like pass functions down, so your components know what that function is pretty much like intended to do. I'm gonna do another workshop where pretty much like I show how to work with like functions in props, because it's really interesting. It's like if you look at the code, right? if your app.js has a function specifically, right? And let's say app.js itself has like a state. Then what you want to do is kind of like saying, okay, I know that my function manages the state of this component, but I want to make sure to manage the state of the higher component.
Breaking up.
Oh, I'm breaking up?
Oh, now I can hear you a little better.
Okay, so I was saying, if the app itself had like a state, right? And you're passing down the functions that manages that state, you can manage the...
Wait, I'm going to just play it on YouTube real quick so I can hear you.
Okay, it's weird. Huh.
Go ahead.
So what I'm saying is, if you have the app.js, right? The component app.js, which is like the main component. Okay, I'm just gonna continue saying it's fine. So if you go in the app.js, this component right here has a state itself, right? If you pass down a function, then the red box or the green box is gonna be able to change the state of the higher component. That doesn't mean that you are breaking the law of unidirectionality, meaning that like, you know, everything goes down, but you're kind of like calling something called a bubble up state. If you look in the React docs, bubble up state, it's just a way to lifting up state. It's just a way for you to manage the higher component, meaning like whoever passed you down like data, to manage the state of that component. And again, I'm going to do a workshop where like I'm going to explain more like what lifting up state means. But if you do like a function, my phone died completely, by the way, so I'm sorry if I disconnected from the video chat. But so yeah, if you pretty much like can manage the state of the higher component, then it means that your higher component, right, the app.js in this case, doesn't have to have too much code. So you can split it in a way that it's like more modular. And again, you can just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down on the chat and kind of like see if we can understand each other. So if your green box wanted to say something like, hey, let's say I want to change this hello zap value, I want to pass down the function that would change this hello zap value from another component. And it's really powerful because usually like you don't want like too much, let's say like state data to be just like managed in one component, but you want to be able to like split it, or you want to be able to like have like specific components that manage it. Yeah, cool. Any other questions, guys? I'll give you 2 more minutes. That was a really interesting question. I'm definitely going to do a workshop where like I talk about lifting state up and like making something a little bit more advanced than just like boxes and stuff like that. Maybe talk a little bit more behind the scenes of like what happens in the runtime and what React is actually doing with the browser and all that stuff. This was kind of like, you know, an overview to kind of like get people hooked up on React. Because I know people like, you know, look at the documentation and it looks a little bit like frightening. 1 more minute, guys. Any other questions? Chong, you good? John, you good? Francesco, are you with us? Michael? Chris? Well, it looks like there's only Chong and John. All right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate your time. I hope this was not too long and boring. Nice. Yeah, Chong, definitely do that. Write something. Come up with a project. Anytime, John. Come up with a project, guys. Something interesting. Like you want to make a Pokédex. That's like a project that like a lot of people do at first, just like to understand like, you know, how React works and like what's the behavioral components. There's more like advanced stuff too that we're gonna get to in the workshop as well. I'm gonna try to make some videos, maybe like shorter videos to kind of like explain like basic concepts again. I'm not really a big, I'm not really big like on YouTube or anything like that. Like I don't really have like a common plan because I always like want to change it and upgrade it. But I will try to come up with like a curriculum that I can put together so you guys can kind of like work with projects with me and kind of like have your own version. Like I can give you a template and then you guys can have like your own version of the project itself. Maybe next time we're gonna do like more like nav bars and an actual website rather than just talking in terms of like a web application and like how React like works and interacts in terms of behavior. Well, thank you so much for tuning in again. Really had fun. Let me go to this OBS video thingy. I never recorded this. Cool. So I never recorded this. Damn it. I never recorded this. I'm gonna try to. If you got, I think YouTube will save it, hopefully. But my software didn't save it for sure. So let's go and look at YouTube. Okay. Let's see if I can end the live. What are we doing this? What are we doing this? Yeah, okay, cool. So it's recorded with YouTube. Awesome. Okay, so if I stop it from